This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free. He goes to Gibbs wide. Edge of the box. Foley. Yes! Great goal! What a hit from Oliveira! It's wide! They've only gone and done it again! Forest back in the lead from Morgan Gibbs White. Oh, and he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic!
Hello and welcome to this edition of Red Side of the Trent as we come to you shortly after Nottingham Forest's 3-1 defeat at home to Newcastle United. It feels very weird to say we've lost a home game in such emphatic fashion, but unfortunately that was the case and we couldn't quite make it 4 wins in a row in the league. But the Reds still are 5th, which is, a certainly worse place to be than the 5th best team in the country. So there is that. But we'll go through it now. I'm your host, Christian Brown. I'm joined by Reece Lane and Adam Wicklow. Unfortunately, not a full house today as Lee Clark has other commitments. But we'll go through the game as best we can and try not to go too deep into it because I don't want it to be like hung, drawn and quartered, considering that it's not the end of the world losing that match, put it that way. But we'll start with you, Reece. Obviously, the team was unchanged as expected. Obviously, we found that out in the nav just shortly before I won the quiz, just saying. Which was probably the best highlight of the day, really. But I suppose we all sort of knew that team wasn't likely to change. But would you have liked to have seen him tinker a little bit, maybe, especially in midfield? I know it's easy to say that after the fact, of course, but or did you think that was just fair game and don't change winning formula sort of thing?
Can I just start us off and say that you are a second winner of NAV quiz on this podcast behind my good self and my partner. But well done on that, mate, even though a lot of the answers were wrong, but we're not getting to that.
Wins a win.
Yeah. Well, you can't be clairvoyant, can you? I was happy with the team. I wanted to see us go and change. I know there's been a few fans, and they have a right to the opinion to kind of an easy drop was Dominguez when he's been probably in the best form he has been since he signed for Forest. So, as I said on the last podcast, I didn't really understand that personally. So glad to see him stay in. Obviously, Gibbs White kept his place. I think it's quite clear that him and Anderson aren't 100% fit, really. Hence why they're kind of interchanging, aren't they? But yeah, happy with the team. It was set up to be what was going to be a bit of a grudge match, wasn't it? Because Newcastle are a very physical side. Obviously, we've got players in our team who like getting stuck in, both doing relatively well at the minute. So, it was all set, really.
Yeah, it was a very interesting start to the game, Adam. I mean, I actually felt like from the off, Newcastle looked good. I think it was a good sort of interesting sort of sparring battle to begin with. But you could see we were dealing with, a very good side and one that, as we'll come on to a bit more detail later, probably a couple of years ahead of us at the very least. But it was Forest at the lead, ironically, and from a set piece, which I found so strange because Newcastle defended so well, like in open play all game, especially up to that point, and then I just let Murillo have a free header on goal. I mean, we've said for ages we'd hoped that his first goal for Forest would be this like 75-yard screamer into the top corner that takes a net out, like on Score Hero or something. But unfortunately, it was, as you called it, a pretty routine header in the end. But I thought he connected with it really well, and his run for the goal I thought was very good too. So what did you think?
Yeah, good ball in from Alanga, and he's been threatening with good delivery the last few games, hasn't he? So good run. It'd be harder to miss, I think, that sort of opportunity, I thought, for Murillo, but really happy with him. Deserved. It's been coming kind of thing, and kind of bittersweet that obviously he's on the losing team in the end, but great for himself personally, as well as with the Brazil call up now and him going away. So yeah, pretty good goal. I mean, a goal that you wouldn't really expect him to score because he's quite small and Newcastle are quite big, especially when you've got Dan Burn amongst your ranks. So I'm sure there'll be questions there. from a Newcastle perspective. But yeah, no, good header, and good to see that we've got that threat going forward from set pieces ourselves as well.
Definitely, yeah. No, it was quite nice, refreshing to up from set piece. But you're right about to touch on Langer as well. I think I saw there was one of those random stats that said that I think he was like one of sort of the data nerdy sheets. He was like top for like expected threat or something from a set piece, or one of those God knows what stats. But he showed it yesterday as well. I thought his delivery all day was really good. There was one just before that as well, which I think Yates was offside for, and Wood had a shot which sort of like was deflected over. Obviously didn't mean anything in the end, but it was a brilliant ball in from Langer from a dead ball. So it's nice to know that he's got that in his locker, because it certainly obviously helped us in that situation. But yeah, Reece, obviously we rode out the storm until half time, because Newcastle from that point were pretty good, to put it mildly. Got the ball around really well. Bruno Guimaraes in midfield especially was just like unrelenting force pretty much. But we held out. I actually thought we were quite sensible in our game management up until half time. I felt that when Newcastle were getting ahead of steam, we'd find a way to knock it around the back for a little bit, sort of testing out their tail a little bit, and then obviously, by the time they got the ball again, they got rebuild of that momentum once more. I felt we were doing that quite well in the first half, albeit by making a lot of mistakes. And perhaps fair to say that one of those mistakes may have come from Ryan Yates, who was maybe a bit fortunate not to be carded. Obviously, I didn't really think too much of it in the ground. I could, obviously, from where we are in Upper Bridgeford, I couldn't really see, but Newcastle fans weren't very happy. Felt that he elbowed Livramento. Obviously put one on Longstaff's knee, pretty much. What did you think? Because I don't know if it's just me for being up there and not really seeing these things in like real time and thinking, that's
it's obviously tough. It's tough for us because we're in Upper Bridgeford and it's up end of the pitch. I've tried to find some video and I haven't been able to really see the incidents back. I'm not going off what screenshots on Twitter from football agenda accounts are like, because obviously you put a screenshot up and someone's caught someone's knee, it's going to look bad, isn't it? But obviously you watch it at full speed in the video, and as you know, sometimes these things don't look half as bad. So we obviously know what Yates is like. He puts himself about. Newcastle are the same. They like putting themselves about. Joel in the first half, I think there was a period where he got upset, didn't he? And him and Gibbs White were literally head to head. Bruno Guimaraes puts himself about. Fabian Schär's a regular yellow card offender. Dan Burn, Gibbs White skipped by and it just brought him down. So it was one of them games yesterday where I think it was always going to add that bit of needle, because you've got two teams who do like to put themselves about at times. I'd have to kind of, like I said, I just couldn't really find the video. So unfortunately, I didn't really fancy recording it and watching the whole game back after the defeat. But it's hard on saying it from the screenshots. I do have to laugh because it's every week, isn't it? Yeah, he seems to wind up every opposition we come up against, and I guess from our perspective that's a good thing. But obviously, if you're on the other end of the spectrum, you're like, oh, you bloody hate him, Or them, I think back to what I'm used with Robbie Savage, where it was like, oh, bloody hate him, but you used to kind of get results, and you kind of think, well, I wish he was in our team a little bit. So, yeah, I guess I can't really say much on it, mate. To be honest, unfortunately, I'm not going to go either way on that.
No, that's fair enough. I think it was weird because where were they? They obviously had quite a few penalty shouts, but it didn't seem like any of them particularly meaningful. The only one I was slightly worried about was when Hudson-Odoi, I think, took out, I can't remember who, right, might have been Gordon or Livramento, and it looked like it was
on the right.
Yeah, and he sort of carried into the box. I thought, oh no, but
I know what
Taylor
you
was
mean now.
Taylor was quite adamant that was outside the box.
It was outside,
yeah. So all good there, but obviously the lesson being, Adam, in the first half was that we'd obviously got away with one. I mean, we weren't the better team by the half-time whistle. We were lucky to be ahead, and really, we should have come out. I mean, I saw WT Analysis say that was a perfect time to go to a three at the back formation, try and sort of be a bit tighter. But obviously we didn't. We went out as was, and Newcastle just stepped up a gear, up the tempo massively, and within 10 minutes they scored from a corner, which is the first time we've conceded from a corner all season, unfortunately. But I'll let you take that one away.
I mean, I thought Newcastle were excellent. You got to give them the flowers. I know this is a Forest pod and we want to kind of wax lyrical about ourselves, but you got to give credit to them and how they approached the game. I thought the corner is bang on the money, and I mean, it's no fault of Wood because he's gone up to head the ball and he's just headed it against. I think it's Longstaff who gets kind of in his way, who's jumped with him, and it's just fallen to such an informed striker. And we know Isak is firmly on the nemesis list of Forest because he always scores past us. And I mean, credit to him for reacting so quick to it and just lashing it in the bottom corner. And we kind of like didn't learn our lessons, and Newcastle got their tails right up. And yeah, they kind of just took it from there, really. We didn't really have an answer. We weren't at the races. No, I don't think it was from a lack of endeavour either. And I'm sure we will reiterate that as we go through. I just thought they were the much better side and the much stronger side, and they kind of showed their quality, unfortunately, on the day.
Yeah, big time. It was like watching something like the first season again, that second half. Like, we just looked night and day behind what was up in front of us. And it was, yeah, pretty concerning. So, I mean, obviously, with 20 to go, race, obviously, it came 2-1. It should have been 2-1 a lot sooner, really, when Isak had that great chance and somehow put it past the post. I mean, I thought that was in. I thought everyone thought that was in, really, when he hit it. Isak himself probably thought that was in when he hit it. But obviously, eventually, I think the manner of the goal came because, I mean, we've gone on the attack. They've switched the play very quickly to Joe Linton. I think, like, obviously, Moreno stands him up as best he can. He's looking at the overlap as well. I think Elanga maybe, in his haste to sort of get there, maybe jumps in a bit too early. Joe Linton sort of just reads it and just cuts inside. But as we know full well, you can't let Premier League players pick their spot and shoot, and lo and behold.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on the first goal as well, I kind of thought Sal should have come out and claimed that person. I thought that was in his area to come and claim. And if you watch the replay, actually does come and then goes back. And another annoying thing about that goal, although it is a bit lucky, is that we had a play on that back post and we're cleared annoyingly. But that's a bit of a pet hate in football. But no, I'll touch as well briefly on the third goal. Both of them goals just come from overloads, don't you, on the flanks. We'll obviously go through the second because, like you said, Christian, Livramento is obviously gone on the overlap, so Moreno's got to watch him. And then that allows Joel into that time to, cut inside. And yeah, it's a great strike into, what can you kind of say, killed it. And as soon as he killed it, you kind of knew it was in that far corner. He's not... I mean, he was brought as a striker, wanted for Newcastle, but he wasn't very prolific. So he's ended up applying himself as a trade in as kind of a centre mid or, kind of a wide forward at times. But yeah, that was kind of the reason, really, just that overload, and it allowed that, time for him to come inside and bend it. And annoyingly for us, he bent it in the far corner again. Like you said, we had a warning. I mean, Isak, I thought was brilliant for them yesterday. He probably could have even took a touch there, couldn't he, for that volley? But he obviously tried the spectacular, and I think everybody in the ground thought that was the end of the away end did because they were half up in the air. But yeah, I guess as well, I see in WT analysis posts as well about changing it at half time. I guess when you're winning 1-0 and with how well we've defended this season, you kind of back your players a bit. Because if you was to change it, as we did, I know this is at the start of the game against Fulham, and it goes spectacularly wrong, you're kind of leaving yourself to be caned, aren't you? So I get why it's kind of stayed the same, but I think second half they did overrun us, didn't they, on the flanks and in midfield as well. And you got to hand it to them. They're a good team, and they punished us. And at this level, you get punished, unfortunately.
No, I think it's quite nice. Obviously, we've lost. It's annoying, but we aren't talking about a referee that's cost us the game. For example, we were actually saying, like, fair play to opposition. Eddie Howe, he actually got it tactically spot on. I thought, as you touched upon, that second half, they were just too good for us, and that's fine. Like, this is a team that's probably 4 or 5 years ahead of us at least in terms of what they've spent and where they are in the league, and it's just football, isn't it? It's quite nice to say, like, it's because it's just football rather than going, oh, this clown's like dropped a clanger again and whatever else.
Well, they did what Leicester didn't do, because Leicester had joy, didn't they, on the turnover in the first half at the King Power, but it didn't really punish us. I know they scored, that one, but it wasn't like where they've obviously scored 3 goals from basically it. So that's the Newcastle are a good side. You know, we was all, because of how we're doing at the minute, was all confident going into the game, because if you can't be confident when you're third in the league for a club like us, then when are you going to be? So, but as we said, you know, Isak's a massive threat. You know, how much did they pay for Joel Linton? 35 million.
44 million.
Oh,
Yeah, Bruno Guimaraes 50 million. So you know, they've got good quality players in there. You know, I think they're both Brazil internationals. I know Bruno is. So
yeah,
you know, they're not cloggers from the Championship, are they? Like the olden days. So yeah, as frustrating as it is for us, there was going to come a time in this league when we do have a bit of an off day, and that was yesterday, unfortunately, and we got punished for it.
Yeah, I think like, the only what I do take solace from is that this one reason why I didn't want to be too hypercritical was that if you look at the 11 games as a whole picture, that's the only time really where you've looked at Forest and thought, yeah, they've not been at it today. They've had a really bad day. Whereas last season or the season before, it was a fairly common occurrence. We'd say that, like, you know, in the cold light of day, we haven't been good enough. Like yesterday was the first time all season, and we're nearly a third of the way through. So that is a huge leap. I do want to emphasize that point that, yeah, we're annoyed we've lost, but equally we have to sort of highlight that we have made huge strides this season, and long may that continue. But obviously, Adam, just to wrap things up, they did get a third goal again from a Forest attack, and hit us on the counter. Well, this one is a bit more annoying for me personally because, contrary to what I just said, just because I felt that this one, out of all the goals that we conceded yesterday, this was perhaps the most avoidable one for me, because it's come from what I believe to be a player mistake, at least one player mistake, and I think the keeper should save it. It's gone straight through him for me, and both defenders as well. It sort of goes straight through them as well, and I know they sort of say, "Oh, he's been put off balance because it's gone through the legs," sort of thing. It's straight at him. It's a Matt Turner-esque mistake for me, but I'll let you know.
I mean, Harvey Barnes is a bit like Hudson-Odoi in terms of he likes to cut in and hit across the goalkeeper on his right foot, and he's hit the ball through it's hit Milenkovic's leg and kind of gone over Sells, and he's dived the wrong way in a sense. And I kind of agree with you. A keeper should get beat at the near post, but he has done. I thought the move going forward was excellent, and our own cock up really. I mean, Jota should pass the ball out wide and kind of keep the move going and recycle the ball. And he doesn't. He tries to kind of go for a bit of glory, and he runs into traffic. And yeah, that's the second goal. I'm talking about the third goal, aren't I? Yeah, no, we get a pass wrong, don't we, on the right hand side, and then they kind of break forward. I mean, the touch from Barnes around the corner is brilliant. And then yeah, they're just at us, aren't they? And yeah, you can't do anything about the move, like you say. Goalie, yeah, could do something better, but again, we know that Matt Sells is probably a mid-table kind of goalkeeper at this level. Unfortunately, it's just one of them, and we're gonna. I don't really have it. I'm not gonna really shout at him because he's made some good saves for us this season, and we've played well still in the first 11 games. I'm still really happy with how we've started. We can't really grumble. Like if we've got another 5 really tough games come in after the international break, along with a load of others, obviously in December, come in to get us to halfway through this season. So I'm still in really positive mood, to be honest. I'm not going to damn Matt Sells for a goal he's conceded there, especially after that save against Chelsea. I kind of think it's all right for one at least. But if he starts letting more in like that, then I guess you start questioning him. I mean, Reece, you mentioned about Miguel's ability to come out and claim a cross. Like that might put
because I mean, God, when we mentioned, I had the chat about Sells, and Miguel Sells has gone on and he's been a player of the month contender. So you can't slate it, but he just got kind of wrong-footed, didn't he? By that, I wouldn't say it was a massive hal or anything like that per se. And to be honest, as well, like I said, they completely overloaded us, didn't they? Again, and obviously Milenkovic is then looking at the man who's running at him. You're looking at the overlap, and then it's just. And by that point, I think his heads had kind of dropped really, and we just conceded a sloppy goal, which is unlike us. And as I said before, you can kind of account for one bad half, can't you, in 11 games? To be honest, I don't think there's no need to go OTT over it. I think as well, similar to the Fulham game, kind of the subs didn't really have any impact did they yesterday. Just
No.
second half, it just kind of passed us by, unfortunately. I mean, something what was really good at St James's when we beat him 3-1 was that Morgan Gibbs-White gave Bruno Guimaraes the run around. Whereas yesterday, obviously, he did have done an hour and then Elliot Anderson took over from him. And I thought Anderson come on, he was just trying a bit too hard because it was against Newcastle. And that's where kind of Bruno started really getting in the game. Obviously, as well, when you've got Bruno, Joel Linton in there against Yates and Dominguez, who like to, get the foot in as well. You look at the centre mid pair we had up at St James's, where it's Sangare and Danilo, who are a bit more, I wouldn't say as tenacious, but they won the battle, didn't they, that day? So that might have been something if Sangare was fit yesterday to have kind of that number 6 too, like WT Analysis mentioned with the back three, to have an actual number 6 to protect that back four is probably something we maybe missed second half yesterday, but obviously he's not fit anyway, so that's kind of irrelevant. But it's just one of them afternoons you've got to write off. Like we're disappointed and frustrated because you live in the here and now as a football fan. You're kind of only as good as your last game kind of thing. But the bigger picture is, we're 5th in the league after 11 games. We've probably had, the Fulham game really should have been a draw, shouldn't it? Which would have probably just drew a line through. We've had one bad half yesterday in 11 games. We just have to draw write this one off. And it's just a shame, really, that we've now got to wait, isn't it? Because, but we have come back both international breaks so far with a win. I know, obviously, it's Arsenal away next, but obviously we did beat Liverpool. So who knows? We'll have to see once we come back if we can quickly shake it off. Because on paper, the run of fixtures coming up is a little bit daunting, but as we've seen by his away form this season, we can kind of give anyone a go. So we'll just have to see, won't we, what happens.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that'll be the testing point, really, because I think over the next, like Adam touched upon earlier, we've got Arsenal, both Manchester clubs all away, Brentford away, Villa and Spurs at home, and they've got Everton away at the end of the month as well. I mean, awkward one there last.
At home.
Everton away, I had a look at this earlier. Everton away is the halfway point, which is just after Christmas. If we got to Everton away, so obviously 19 games in, and we were still in the top half, I think that's a brilliant achievement.
Yeah,
I know we've all got these dreams of myself included, as you guys are the same, the fan base is the same, but if we went into the new year in the top half of the Premier League, I think that would be a fantastic achievement for us. And I think that is a realistic aim, but as you look at the table now, this it was mentioned on TalkSport earlier. I think there's only like 4 points down to like 12th, maybe.
It's 3
the
points.
Championship all over again.
So it's really, really, really tight.
Competitive.
Just got to take it game by game. And as Lee said on the last pod, isn't it? It's not like we're looking over his shoulder thinking, oh, Jesus, Ipswich have beat Tottenham yesterday, shock result, and that's going to pull us into trouble. We've given ourselves a really good start. We're not worried about the threat of relegation. So we'll just see where it takes us, really, for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Although there is one thing I have sort of picked up on. Just a little question for you regarding Forest holding leads, because that's now if you look at this Bournemouth, Wolves, Brighton, Chelsea, obviously we're pinned back at Leicester, then we're covered, and now obviously Newcastle. So that's 5, potentially 6 games, really. You look at it out of 11, we've taken the lead in and then not won the game. Is that a bit of concern for you both? Or is that just sort of like, are you sort of just going with it for the time being?
I think that's been the way, really, ever since we've got promoted. I think I've mentioned this before, that there is times when we've gone 1-0 up in games, and I've said on this pod, can we go and get that second goal? And a lot of the time, we haven't been able to do that. To be honest, really, when we went 1-0 up yesterday, I thought it gave Newcastle a kick up the arse. I think from then onwards, they were probably the better team, weren't they, after we went 1-0 up. But look, it's a bloody tough league, and we're talking like comparing it to the Championship and stuff, and you make tiny mistakes in this league and you get punished, whereas in the Championship, it's like some clogger will do what Isak did with that volley and stink it out, you know what I mean? So, obviously it would be nice to see our Leeds. I mean, the Wolves one was unfortunate, because it's just a blast from nowhere. even the Bournemouth one. I mean, we just really just need to clear his line. But I guess it's a little bit of cause for concern. But we'll kind of have to see going forward. Really, what do you think, Adam?
I mean, would you rather be chasing games every week or having something to hold on to? So it's like a glass half full kind of moment, isn't it?
I mean, I'd
So it's
rather
like-
not be in a position where we're throwing away leads. So
Yeah, but would you
depends
rather
which way
be
you
in a
look at it.
position where you're letting the first goal in and having to chase the football match, Christian? That's what I'm trying to say. So it goes both ways. So I'd rather have something to protect personally, and you throw away a lead rather than having something to chase all the time. But that's just me personally. But I'd rather us not concede at all, obviously, and win more formats.
Yeah,
If that was the case, we'd be top of the league.
I guess as well, obviously, on the flip side, we've had leads against the best team in the country, well, the best team in Europe, really, in the minute. We've held on to a lead against them. We've obviously held on to a lead against Palace. We've strengthened ourselves against West Ham. Just trying to think what others.
These are kind of stepping stones, though, Reece. These are the next steps we've got to take now. We've kind of got past the bit of like, can we hold on to a lead against good teams? Yes. Are we going to do it every single time? No, probably not, because we're not quite at that level yet. These are
obviously Southampton as well.
Yeah, these are just the stepping stones we're going to make, and these are probably the inconsistencies of a mid-table side, which we could well be at the end of the season. For all we know, we will start to level out now and kind of maybe come 10th, 11th, 12th. But as you said, it will still be a bloody good achievement to finish the top half. So,
it'd be a brilliant achievement if we finish it. Well, we were 17th last season. If we could finish in the top half, I think that'd be a tremendous achievement, personally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it would be sensational. I'm just slightly concerned because obviously, if we end up going to a position where we like last season, for example, where we're leading games and suddenly it's turning into losses rather than draws, then it becomes a big problem.
Yeah.
So
I guess the difference I know, obviously, forget about yesterday, but last season we conceded so many cheap goals, didn't we? Where at least this season we've shown, I think we're still the second best defensive unit in the league. At least this season we've shown at times, as I said, Palace, West Ham, Leicester, when we was 3-1 up, we knew the PTSD of Forest, and it's like, if they get on back. So we have shown in games that we can do that. It's just, can you do that consistently at this level when you're, like Adam said, a mid-table team? It is going to be difficult because pretty much every team has got quality players who can hurt you. I mean, we mentioned like Bruno and Joel Linton, 40, 50 million. I mean, how much is he at? How much would he go for?
He was 70 million.
100 million, yeah. And if there was a selling, they probably want 100 million for him. So, these are the kind of players you're coming up against, not freebies from bloody Blackburn.
Those. Anyway, we're now going to move on to some of your slept on it thoughts.
Red side of the Trent. Slept on it thoughts.
We've got quite a few to go through. It's always the way after a loss. We always get inundated with slept on it thoughts whenever we lose. If we win, it's like 6. It's like, come on, anyway. Bennett says, better side won. We gave them lots of gaps in the second half and Slime made a difference, carrying the ball well through midfield for 2 of their goals. Onwards and upwards. Danny Tring, the better team won. Lost the football battle in midfield. Phil for Anderson, not buying the injured rubbish. Gibbs White for me was as poor as I've ever seen him. It's still a great start to the season. We'll learn more from that than anything else. Yummy Bear says, not our day today. When half the team has an off day in the Prem, you'll get punished, and we did. A good reality check, I hope, and the players use this to continue to push on. We'll be 4th in the Prem going into November's international break, or 5th now. So let's not all have a meltdown. Premier Elliott says, Murillo didn't deserve to lose that game, but still a top half team. And a panic. Today's fact is that Russian football team FC Sakhalin are based in such a remote town that to get to their closest away game, they have to travel 1/6 of the circumference of the Earth. It's like Truro going to Torquay or something like that. But K-Classic in Function says, Newcastle did unto us what we tried to do to others. Unlike Fulham, less a systems failure, more a lack of effort and application. They were sharper. Midfield was wiped. Should have switched to 3 with Anderson or Ward-Prowse and sacrificed a winger. Time to regroup and renew for Arsenal. Gareth D says, undone by our own counter-attacking game. Need to bolster the midfield at 1-1. A disappointing performance and result, but not in the world. Newcastle will be top 6/8 this season. We're still in an excellent position and we will have off days. This was one of them. Snowboard Pete says it was going to be a tough day against a decent side. First half, we were slightly on top, but Newcastle upped the tempo and broke quickly in that second half. Few too many mistakes and open space, but we'll learn from that. Still a great start to the season. Tom Newton says just a bad day all round. Too many players having an off game. Once you have 2/3 of the players having a bad game at this level, you've got no chance. Newcastle have just been a better side. Just need to forget about this game and crack on to the next. Grant Fellows says just one of those days. 3 or 4 not quite on their game, which hasn't happened much this season. Newcastle kept moving around players and we never got to grips with it. Second to the ball most of the game. Take it on the chin and come back firing next week. Mark Baper says can't really complain. Maybe a touch of overconfidence from us. A bit disappointed that they outworked us, but it's a Premier League, and if you're not on it, you get punished. We need to have a conversation about Elanga and what he actually brings to the team. It's an interesting one. Jerry Pritchard says best team won, no doubt. However, it was clear at half time we were being overrun in midfield and therefore would have liked another midfielder to come on then for Elanga / Hudson-Odoi. And maybe even Morata to shore things up. By the way, Joe Linton is a powerhouse. Carl Booth says all about that second half for me. Newcastle up the intensity, wingers and fullbacks pushed further on. They made the pitch wide, got round the sides and boxed in the equaliser and the winner were inevitable. It felt like we didn't have an answer. It was very sobering. Martin says, I'll say it again, Elanga flat to deceive, never takes anyone on and constantly loses the ball. If it wasn't for set piece ability, running and social media presence, always in the photographer of the scorer, we'd have been found out by now. It's a bit scathing. Johnny Ancliffe says, lackluster performance, strange given 8 days since West Ham. Maybe players playing through knocks. International break maybe coming at a good time. Beaten by a better team today. And last but not least, our very own Lee Clark said, firstly, let's stop the nitpicking with Taylor. We know what he's like, but he had no impact on yesterday's game, and Yates could have been sent off twice. One of those games where we just lost to better sides. If Dominguez scores for 2-0, we probably win the game. Dommy very good, but felt he did the work of 2 players at times. Perhaps he did more Prowse earlier alongside him. Elanga, Murillo, and Dominguez, the only 3 who really shone, but we've not become a bad side overnight. So thank you all for getting your steps on it thoughts in. We'll go through some player performances now, but not many, just because it wasn't. I mean, as the people have touched upon, and fairly so, I think you can probably count 6 or 7 at least who had 4 5s out of 10 yesterday. It was bad. I mean, you know, all the way through the team. Gibbs White wasn't at it. Hudson-Odoi wasn't at it. He was hooked and worryingly went straight down the tunnel. Elanga was perhaps bailed out by his assist for the free kick. He wasn't at it. Jota, when he came on, he wasn't at it. Sosa's touch was heavy when he came on. He wasn't at it. Yates, as we've established, wasn't quite at it. And then I felt awful for Woods because he was just getting bullied by Dan Burn all game. I think he won 2 out of his 8 aerial duels. We kept smacking it long to him. It was pointless. But and obviously Anderson, when he came on, like you touched on it earlier, Reece, tried way too hard and, like, you know, ended up being more of a hindrance.
It was summed up by the fact that we brought a set piece specialist on and Anderson took the corner and then he didn't even beat the first. I just thought, what was the point of bringing Ward? But I thought we would literally chuck Ward-Prowse on late on. So if we did get a set piece, you know, what was he? Was it 7 minutes added?
7 minutes added, yeah.
Get one on the, you know, whip it in 92nd minute, comes off someone's backside, you're back in the game. But
yeah, very frustrating. However, there were a few little rays of sunshine, and I'll start with you, Reece, for the first one. And I was actually very surprised he was subbed off. I thought, again, he was our best midfielder of the day. And I'm going to give you Nico Dominguez because I think he's very quickly becoming undroppable. But that's just my view.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've said this on the last pod and said it already. There is, and people can have their opinion. I just don't get why he's kind of the easy drop, really. I think he's grasped his chance with both hands, and I think in the 3 games he had started before yesterday, I think he's been brilliant in each, and I actually thought he was pretty decent yesterday. The surprise why he did come off for me was the fact that Yates was on a yellow card. So obviously Yates' job, as we saw yesterday, was trying to get tight to Bruno Guimaraes and obviously hassle him. If you're on a yellow, you can't do that because after, you know, if you obviously keep making fouls, the referee's just going to say, I'll tell you what, I've had enough of this, and give him a second yellow. So I don't know whether that was down to a knock. I don't think he was too pleased, Dominguez, when he did come off. So I don't know if that was down to frustration or the fact that he might have just got a knock, because Nuno did mention on Radio Nottingham after the game there is players playing with knocks. I think that's clear with Gibbs White. I think he's probably clear with Anderson. So it might be a good time to kind of, I know some of them are going on international duty, aren't they? Although can't imagine Morgan Gibbs White probably playing, but we'll see. So it'd be a good time for a few of them, Dominguez being one, to kind of get some, recharge the batteries again. And because it's obviously a big period now, we've not got, we know what it's like in England over December. Games are coming thick and fast. There's no international break now, I believe, till March. So, and as well for Dominguez, as we mentioned on the last pod again, he'll be looking at trying to get back in Argentina's side with, the World Cup coming up. So, I thought he was decent again yesterday. And that's all you can really say about him. I'd probably give him, I don't know, 6.5 out of 10, 7. I think fours and fives are a bit harsh for me because I always think when you go in 4, especially 4, I always think then you're kind of thinking, they've got to have done something drastically wrong, where players usually start on a 6, don't they? And they kind of, if they're not done much, they stay 5 or 6, don't they? So, hopefully he can keep his form up, because he's come out of nowhere, has he? He was sixth choice centre mid at one point, and now, you're arguing whether he's first choice centre mid. So it's crazy how things can turn around.
No, very much so. Yeah, I'm a big fan of his. I thought that it was weird because obviously last season he was played, even the start of this season at Liverpool, obviously he played in the wing. I imagine that's where he'll be deployed for the Arsenal game after the break. I think obviously this defeat gives a chance to reassess a few things. I imagine we'll go back to that sort of more safety first approach to going to Arsenal, but again, that's very understandable because we're playing one of the best teams in the country.
I don't know. I think with obviously Arsenal's form, and I know it's just really shame they got Odegaard back, because
that's it. With Odegaard back, you can't afford to go there like an open plan. You'll get cut open.
You're looking obviously to try and get out, but they're not really frequent scorers, are they, Arsenal, at the minute? It's a bit of a problem for them. And then, they've obviously got injuries. I think Declan Rice is apparently playing with a broken toe. Obviously, Bukayo Saka did his usual. I've had enough after 75 minutes and hobbled off yesterday. So we'll have to see after the break when we see what happens.
Yeah, we'll touch on that loosely after. But yeah, just going back to Dummy, I've been so bowled over by him. He's been brilliant so far this season. Like, he's just very composed in the ball. He's very tenacious, presses very well, I thought. Yeah, just a very good player to have at the football club, and long may that sort of stint continue. Adam, I'm going to give you the goal scorer in Murillo, who, like Elliot touched upon, probably didn't deserve to be the losing team yesterday. I thought, again, very good. What do you think?
Yeah, I just want to come back to the midfield thing afterwards. Murillo, I just thought, well deserved, as I said earlier. Topped off his kind of several weeks with the international call-up, him obviously scoring in front of the Bridgeford end, and obviously the song got really going, didn't it? So, yeah, really, really pleased for him. I'm glad he scored a goal for us before we kind of say goodbye to him when he's getting revealed at the Bernabeu or wherever he's going to head off to.
200 million, yeah.
For $1 billion, as I keep putting that.
Just not Anfield.
I just keep putting that Dr. Evil gif up of him just going $1 billion and then with his little finger in his mouth. Just kind of, I think what we'll like. I know I don't want to talk like a negative because I'm saying it's like Murillo's already going kind of thing, but it's inevitable. But we will maximize that to the fullest, I find. So, but no, really pleased for him. I'm so happy for him. He's been so consistent since he's come in. I think you can count on maybe one hand on how many bad games he's had. I don't get this notion of, he's overhyped, he's a bad passer. No, he's a player that is trying to do things that we simply do not have in our repertoire, in all honesty. To have a player like that is special, and you pay the money to go and watch someone like him. And it's mad to say, because you go, I'm going to pay money to watch a centre half do absolute madness, but he's that good. He is that good, and we will really find it difficult. I mean, people have had this debate of who would you rather lose, Gibbs White or Murillo? And I find it really hard to kind of answer that question, because can you really replace a centre half who can do what Murillo can do? You can to an extent, but you'll find it quite difficult. I find left-footed, pacey, strong, can ping a ball 70 yards to someone's toe. Do you know what I mean? I find it amazing that we've got this player in our ranks and he's come out of absolutely nowhere. But yeah, he's been brilliant, and happy for him yesterday. Happy, unhappy that he was on the wrong side of the result, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna be a sad thing. I saw also Dave, you saw it. Forrest put out that sort of video he put for him get his international cap.
Yeah, I've not finished watching it yet.
Oh, yeah, obviously, Felipe's in there and Danilo's in there, and his mum's in there. It's a lovely video. If you get a chance to watch it. But one of the comments was like, "He's the best." I've been watching Forrest for like donkey's years, or whatever. He said he's the best centre back we've had since Des Walker, and it's obviously like it's way before us. Or I remember Des Walker at the end of his career, but obviously like I'm guessing he meant it is Pomp, and it does feel like we've got a very special player there. Just like, I mean, we saw it in it was a Palace game, wasn't it? I think where they were just pressing so high up the pitch in the first half, and he was the only one that could sort of beat it by being a player and then just getting us out of that trap, and then Forrest could like turn and make something happen. But I thought he's just so good to watch. I agree with what you're saying. Like he's a player you pay to see. Whether it's like he has so many good tussles of Isak as well yesterday, and more often than not was getting the better of him. So yeah, his future unfortunately won't be at City Ground for much longer.
This is where you see how good Isak is, because he would drop in deep and get away from him. Do you know what I mean? He'd escape him and kind of dictate play from a forward point of view in that aspect. So that's why Isak is rated, as Reece said, over £100 million, you'd say. But I just want to go back to the midfield thing. I think this period of time of a break, I mean, I know it's not going to happen. Because we know what kind of the timescale is on the injuries of Danilo and Sangare. But if you kind of come back and both of them were like back in training or back fit, that'd be such a welcome addition back to the squad, because I do think we have been a little bit thin. I do think Dominguez has ran a lot of miles, as well as Yates and that for a while, because we've had unavailability from Ward Prowse and Anderson and Gibbs White have kind of, like you say, been carrying these knocks. I do think like Newcastle just completely overpowered us yesterday. You can't, like, Yates's game is to S-House and be a disruptor, but you can't S-House and S-House in Guimaraes. And Guimaraes is a much better footballer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
he loves boot. They love booting though. Bruno and Joel Linton do.
But they can play. They're like the Sunday league worst nightmare, where you go, oh, they're just a clogger who's going to kick you. They can't play, but they can play, and that's the worst thing.
Newcastle are deceivingly very physical. For those who look at your card markets, Bruno and Joel Linton get booked regularly. Trust me. And they love, I think Bruno booted somebody up at their place and got booked. So
I was going to say, when we went 3-1 up, and they just sort of like went, oh, screw this, and just started kicking everyone.
That's the kind of problem. Obviously, Yates' kind of strength is booting people who don't like getting kicked, like Enzo Fernandez and McAllister, whereas Bruno and Joel Linton will be like, I'll tell you what, and I'll just kick you back. But
yeah. And I think that's where we missed it. We missed like Sangare kicking people and like being actually a good footballer as well. No offense to Yates, he's been brilliant, but I just think he got done at his own game yesterday, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I think that's also my slight concern going into the Arsenal game, because it'll be a similar situation. It'll be Rice and Marino or Partey, and again, they aren't going to take. It'll be much like Joe Linton and Bruno. If you kick them, they'll kick you back. Like they won't roll over and start crying.
I guess
like, all right.
With Arsenal, we'll be sat a bit more behind the ball. I know, obviously, they'd completely gone by the stage when we beat them 1-0 when we stayed up in the first season. But Cooper got his tactics spot on that day, didn't he? Where we kind of had that screen in front of the back four, and we really stopped Odegaard receiving it, which Yates was in that team, I believe. So, yeah, we'll kind of have to see. I mean, there's not been much said really about either. I know obviously there was in the photo, but they're not training hard. They know Sangare. I mean,
doubt it. No, I think
they're probably doing like recovery work.
But there's not been much said when they're kind of due back. Really, it's been little.
Nuno said December, hasn't he? I think he sort of said
for both of them.
Yeah, for both of them.
What's Sangare actually done? Torn his hamstring?
Yeah, it's on his hamstring. Yeah. So this is typical, isn't it?
I mean, which is pretty difficult, because he doesn't move at a terrifically fast pace, does he? Unfortunately, but he's just long. He's missed the long, as you call Patrick Vieira.
He's gangly, isn't he? He just hasn't kind of got that agility what Isak did yesterday, because he's kind of got everything. And Isak, he's strong, he's quick, he can move, he can pass, he can score. He's kind of everything.
He's like a mini Henri, isn't he?
Yeah, a bit like a skinnier Drogba, isn't he, really? I'd probably say. Yeah, I was really impressed with him yesterday.
I just wanted to ask you both something about the Arsenal game. I know we'll probably get a fan on of sorts and everything to talk to us, but like that midfield battle everyone always says if you win the midfield battle, you tend to win the game more often than not. I mean, do you think there's a case of like maybe dropping Anderson back in or Ward-Prowse back in? Obviously, Ward-Prowse partnered Yates against Liverpool and was brilliant at screening our back four, them two. But obviously, we had like Anderson and Dominguez out wide as well, and Gibbs White. So we kind of like really suffocated the space there and made them go out wide. Whereas Arsenal, you kind of don't want the ball to go out to Saka too much because you know what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, with Arsenal, I guess it's who's fit into it really for him. I think Saka and Rice are going to pull out of England duty, aren't they? I think that's already been mentioned on TalkSport. It was earlier, so I guess we'll just have a look at their team kind of yesterday. He's still pretty good, isn't it? So
it's not bad. It's not a bad side.
We'll have to. I mean, that's why Nuno's paid the big bucks, isn't he? He's going to have to come up with a tactical plan. What's going to obviously hold them out and also give us a threat on the counter, because that's probably what it's going to be. It's going to be similar to maybe to Liverpool, isn't it?
I personally would advocate for that. I think that I wouldn't be against it if Anderson or Dominguez were just tasked like handcuff yourself to Saka and just stay there. Because obviously they are going to move the ball out wide, but they keep moving it. There's someone there.
Yeah, I mean,
Martinelli prefers playing inside anyway. So, and Trossard, it's just Saka who sort of hugs the touchdown or cut in his left and then whip the ball in. So
the home game last season, I mean, they were in really good form than Arsenal. Obviously, they're a bit stuttering.
They were. Yeah.
I mean, we were ultra. I mean, it was a tedious watch. Don't get me wrong, but it was ultra defensive for 60 minutes, and it actually worked. And then obviously Matt Turner turned up.
Matt Turner thing, yeah.
So if obviously we can execute that plan again, whereas it might be a little bit tedious, and we might have to, be a bit of a Jose Mourinho part of the bus for an hour, then we can do what we kind of do at Liverpool and bring on.
Well, that's it.
The wingers and try and nick it, but we'll see when we come in a couple of weeks.
It's gonna be a fascinating game. Obviously, it's just like you said, it's just annoying that we've got a bit of a wait before it. But on the flip side of the coin, then it gives like some rest and players who maybe clearly need it. But obviously, just before the Newcastle game, I suppose you could say it's curse of the awards. Nuno won Manager of the Month, despite not being on the touchline for half the time or 3/4 of the time. And Chris Woods won Player of the Month for the first time. The first time a Forest player's won Player of the Month. Obviously, Cooper was nominated for Manager of the Month in January 2023, I think, but Arteta won it that month. And obviously, Nuno won it this time round. Double win for Forest. I think that's the least they deserved, personally. It's just a shame that they both followed it up as is like tradition, with a loss and a like anonymous performance. But yeah, I think that's surely a big indicator that the club's going in the right direction, right?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, it was brilliant to see because it's something, in the modern day Premier League era we've not seen, have we? I think was it Stuart Pearce won it, didn't he? I think was it 97? I think he won it, maybe or not. 97, 98. Yeah, when Carling Premiership, then wasn't it back then?
Carling Premiership. Yeah.
Brilliant to see. Obviously, people talk about the curse, what comes with it, and it obviously has cursed us yesterday because we've lost the game and Wood hasn't scored. But brilliant to see, and hopefully, we can get nominated again in the near future.
Getting back in the stands, I say. Don't break what's not. Don't fix what's not broke, sort of thing. Like Rui Pedro's doing a brilliant job.
Yeah, I think he got booked yesterday, didn't he? I don't know what for, but I saw Taylor brandish his cards to the box. Yeah. It wasn't at Nuno, so I'm guessing it was at him. But
what I liked about the club was the picture with the whole staff of the cooks, the doctors, everyone involved. John McGovern obviously there, who was on TalkSport. I think Rishu posted that clip of him. He says he goes down to the training ground every day watching, and that's still really good that we kind of keep that tradition, that the old guard are still involved in the club in some capacity, whether they've got a role there, or they're just there to just kind of simply take in what's happening around the training ground. It's nice. It gives you that kind of like family feel to it, and that's what Forest are at the end of the day. We are a rebellious family. So yeah, I like that. It was a good positive note for us, and it really riled Liverpool fans because Arne Slot's still not won it, despite being pretty much perfect, bar one game or two.
Should have beaten us, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Easy solution, isn't it? Just one last thing before we wrap up. Obviously, the Brazilian media have said that we're apparently going to look to sign Yuri Alberto from Corinthians for £25 million in January. He scored 7 goals in his last 6 games. There's a faint rumour that we went for him on that deadline day, like panic frenzy when Marmoush sort of couldn't materialise. We went straight to him. Marmoush, by the way, who's like going with the Ballon d'Or by the looks of things next season. He scored about 1 billion goals in like 10 games or whatever it is. But interestingly, Nathan said back in August that he didn't think he'd be able to cope with the Premier League demands, which is quite fascinating. It's not really the sort of endorsement I want to see personally, but interesting. I just thought yesterday, like the big thing for me and what really annoyed me was that we kept banging it long to Woods, and poor Woody, like he couldn't do anything. Like he had like a bloody giant on one side and then a share like roughing up the other. He's like a very unenviable position. I think like I said, he won 2 out of his 8 duels, which I think in itself is a bit of a miracle. But I think what annoyed me most was we just kept doing it. It was like we had no other plan. And I think that, Taiwo was very quick, or at least he was pre his injuries. And especially once he gets going, do you think that we maybe need, like, not necessarily, it's difficult because obviously Wood's scoring so many goals, but would you two like to see a different profile of striker come into the club in be it January or the summer, where if we are in a position like that again, where plan A to, Y isn't working, i.e. kick it long to Wood and hope for the best, for someone to like run in behind, for example, you try and get for a different way? What do you think?
I mean, God, Marmoush would have been nice, wouldn't it? I mean, what was it, like 25 million we were talking? I mean, what's Levi with that now? I've got to talk
Scores 3 kicks as well.
Yeah. Is it, I think it's like 14 goals, 10 assists or something like that. Or
like he's linked with like everyone under the moon now. Yeah.
Well, that got away. Nathan knows his stuff, don't he? I guess as well, you have to say that his recruitment team have got some. Obviously, they'll know their stuff as well. So until they come over here, you kind of wouldn't know, would you? Whether some players, I mean, the one I'm thinking of is Barbosa, who come over to Europe, who scored tons of goals in Brazil, and he never really worked for him. And he's a Gabby goal, isn't it? His nickname is. Players can come into Europe, and you think, oh, it might not go for him here and do well, and some come here and don't. Kind of a bit of a luck of the draw, but obviously his recruitment team is a lot better now, so you'd hope they've done their kind of research and would see. I mean, I think again, WT Analysis mentioned this about trusting Tyra a little bit more, and like you said, Christian, it just wasn't working for Wood yesterday because you've got Dan Burn, who's what, 6'7", maybe. Yeah, I mean, and the only time when Wood did get the wrong side of him, which is something we haven't mentioned, was the penalty. He got pulled. Again, I couldn't find a clip. Again, I'm looking at screenshots, so it's really hard to gauge. Obviously, they waved it away, didn't they? But WT Analysis mentioned about trusting Tyro more, and I'm just looking at the last 4 games. He's come on for 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, and 3 minutes. And yesterday, you're thinking, why not 3-1 down? Why not just chuck him on and just give them something? And we know what Tyro's like. He's typical that something's going to come off his shin, isn't it, going? So, I mean, he's not even played a half of football in the last 4 games. So you're kind of trying to get, the last 5 games, because he didn't come on against Chelsea. You're trying to get something going with him. If he, as Lee's mentioned on his podcast before, if Wood does get injured, then, you're chucking in someone who's really rusty. So probably might have been an ample opportunity to get with the game at 3-1, thinking, well, as well with Wood obviously going on international duty again, the game's kind of getting away from us. Just chuck him on really and see what he can do. I know he's not the player of old, it seems, but you're never going to really know until you're giving him more time. 2-3 minutes is just no good to anybody, is it really? But do we need down the line somebody else in that area? We do, yeah, because Wood's 32, isn't he? Obviously, Tyro's had his injury problems, not getting many minutes, so Nuno might not really fancy him anymore. And like we've said before, the injuries might have caught up on him. So I think that is something that needs to be addressed. It is going to be tough in January because prices always go up. So it might be a case of, for me, we might go with Wood and Tyro this season. Then in the summer, wouldn't surprise me if we gave Wood a new deal and maybe let Tyro go if a decent offer come in. And get somebody else then who's probably going to take the mantle from Wood going forward. If we revisited the Jimenez saga, I don't know. Let's not get into that. Obviously, I think Marmoush is off the table now. Obviously, Nketiah went to Palace. So, yeah, obviously you spoke about this guy from Brazil, Christian. So let's hope the recruitment team have got someone up the sleeve.
That'd be nice. Yeah. Adam, what do you reckon?
We're getting Matis Till from Bayern Munich anyway, guys. I won't worry about it. I mean, that link kind of like sprung up the other day. I got very excited. I've watched him a few times.
Is he kind of an out-and-out striker though, or is he like a wide
winger?
He can play both. I just think like he might be someone that if he can play the centre forward role, he might benefit us. But because he can play wide, he kind of will run into them channels. But like you say, you don't know if he's an out and out winger. I've watched him play both positions, to be fair, for Bayern Munich. I've seen him come on for like Kane or even like Coman or Musiala or whatever, and kind of just banging a load of goals. And it's kind of whether you can kind of prize him away from Bayern Munich and say, look, you'll be number one here. And it's just whether you can prize him away from such a massive club, because Harry Kane's not really stopping at the moment with how he's going. So that's an interesting one. Like Reece already said, Christian, and we all know this as football fans, January is the hardest window to buy in, and I agree as well. I don't think Nuno fancies Taiwo, and it's so unfortunate we went out of the League Cup, because that would have been ample opportunity to get his fitness up and get him some game time. But we missed 2 penalties and got dumped out of that, and the FA Cup's not till January. And you're hoping that we kind of make a bit of a run in it, really. And are you going to start Taiwo in that, depending on who you play? Really, you don't know.
I guess the difference as well as for South America, something to mention, is their season's done by then, isn't it? As we had Scarpa.
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah.
So are they going to be like coming over where Scarpa never? I know he had the crypto thing, never really settled, never really got going. Is this, if he was to sign someone from that league in January, they're going to be like at the end of their season, and then they've got to get to grips with the pace of the Premier League.
And our winter.
Big step for them, yeah. It's a big step for them in January. That's why I think we'll probably just assess it at the end of the season now. I think if it was something, what was a real urgency for Nuno, I think he would have said in the summer. And he actually, I think it was Percy who reported it once. He actually said to Marinakis not to put his hand in his pocket for a strike. So he must feel he's got enough, because the situation technically hasn't changed, is he? We knew in the summer Taiwo had not really had much of a pre-season. So nothing's changed too much. He's obviously, I know this wouldn't be ideal, but you also got Josh Silva could maybe play kind of there. I guess a Langer at a push, but Nuno off that information, I guess that's what I think will probably happen. Is now I think it's something we'll probably assess next summer.
Definitely want to keep an eye on. Obviously, we're coming to that stage now where rumours are becoming more fervent. So I guess we'll see as and when something pops up. I'm sure we'll talk about it. But until then, thank you all for joining us today. To go through, we're still the 5th best team in the country. We'll enjoy that mantle while it lasts. Still above Man United, still above Tottenham, so way above Maple. So that's always good. And yeah, it's looking all right. So don't let one bad defeat sort of blotch the big picture, because I still think it's looking pretty good so far. But we'll hopefully come back for you. Or sure we will come back to something with the international break. Try and keep you ticking over with all things Forest, and then in the week up to the Arsenal game, I'm sure we'll have a preview, some description, whether it's with an Arsenal fan or a Forest focused one. We'll soon see. But until then, thank you all again for listening. Thanks for tuning in, and yeah, until then, come on, you Reds.